Welcome back everyone. There is a lot more going on with this episode of House of Dragon Season 2 Episode 7 and there is only finale episode remaining, spoilers ahead here, and Vermithor and Silverwing have been claimed by Hugh Hammer and Ulf White in Dragonstone. This will be my review of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 7 video and there were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. So we'll break it all down and it contains lot of spoilers as well. Grab your swords, everyone. Everybody looking for dragon seeds. If you happen to be able to ride a dragon, make your way to Dragonstone. Careful for spoilers, if you have not seen the episode yet, we'll just start at the beginning. Work our way through shot by shot. Talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. The episode title was called The Red Sowing, which is a term taken directly from the Fire and Blood books. The sowing the seeds, essentially the dragon seeds event that we see play out through the episode. The reason why the books referred to it as the red sowing specifically, is mostly because of the red blood flowing from all the people who got eaten by the dragons when they tried to bond with them and failed. Now we only see Vermithor or snacking on a bunch of the dragon seeds, but in the books, people tried to bond with a bunch of different dragons that were available on Dragonstone. The wild dragons were also around to like Sheep Stealer was around as well. They've changed a lot of Sheep Stealers. Plot. Who we see with Rhaena up in the valley. Like she's looking for a sheep stealer during the episode, that whole stretch of story is completely different. Like they're giving her a bunch of Nettles storyline from the books, but I think there was a brief reference to someone who might have been their nod to Nettles, even though I don't expect to see her actually on the show. Like a character who's close to it. Nettles would have been on the show. They didn't change the opening intro scene that much, they've only removed a couple of scenes from the tapestry. Episode starts actual opening scene starts with Rhaenyra and Cyrus meeting Adam Hall and see smoke on Driftmark. And her just sussing him out because it wasn't clear. I mean, they kind of imply here during their meeting. That she's never actually met him before, has no idea who he is, and she thinks that he's part of Team Green. Now, because she's so famous in the realm, pretty much anybody and their sister would know who Rhaenyra is. Like, oh, you are Rhaenyra, the rightful queen. He says he only wants to serve her. He seems very contrite, like he's kind of afraid here. He doesn't know what's going on. Like, I just want an opportunity to serve. And I want to ride this dragon. Because riding dragons looks like it's really cool, but even without all that stuff, like, even if he weren't a dragon rider, he's careless, bastard son. He grew up on Driftmark. He would have been expected to support Rhaenyra. Even without the dragon, just because of careless in House Valerion's connection to Rhaenyra. He explains what we were all joking about last week. He did not claim Smoke. Smoke claimed him it wasn't how to train your dragon. It was how your dragon trains you. That's kind of the way things go down with the other dragons. Seeds all fight and you hammer later in the episode, especially off-white scene, which they play a little bit more comedically. Here's the weird thing, though. He lies and doesn't tell her that he's clueless is bastard. He does know the truth, like. He knows that Corlys is his father. Corlys knows that he is his bastard too, as we see later in the episode, but they just haven't openly acknowledged it yet. Look, we haven't had a conversation about it yet. My assumption about that, the reason why he's hiding it here and why Corlys doesn't acknowledge it later, like he keeps it secret from the rest of the Black Council too, it's just because they want to turn it into a much bigger moment. She assumes immediately that he's of some Targaryen ancestry in some way, but she can't explain that she thought this was impossible. The way they're explaining all the dragon bonding the Valyrian history during this period is that everything that she knows, she read in books. But in the previous episode, they introduced the idea, as Jace said to her, that a lot of the Valyrian history that they have in their library at Dragonstone was doctored largely to help keep the Valyrian in power, the Targaryens in power because, as Daemon said during Season 1, dreams didn't make us kings, dragons made us kings is like having a nuclear weapon. So you don't want anybody and their sister to think that they'd be able to claim a nuclear weapon on the street. It sounds like one of the ways that the Valyrian kept themselves in power for so many centuries, thousands of years, was to make people think that only dragon lords could claim dragons. When that's not the case, as long as you have some blood from a dragon lord house, it doesn't have to be House Targaryen. It could be any house from ancient Valyria that were part of the dragon lords. Then you also have the potential to claim a dragon. This is actually important for explaining where Adam holds Valyrian blood. That allows him to claim a dragon actually came from, because technically, Corlys Valyrian shouldn't have any of that dragon lord blood in his veins, which he says later. We'll talk about this in a second. There's some technicalities, but I think the episode gave us enough clues to explain it. But part of the idea is the show is saying that he does have dragon lord blood in his veins from ancient Valyria. Then inside Alicent's room, she talks to the Grand Maester about how her whole life has been a lie. Led to nothing. She's tried to be a good girl. Team rules. Team follow the rules her entire life. That was the whole reason why she got pissed off at Rhaenyra. Because Alicent felt like she'd sacrificed everything her entire life. Like she sacrificed her body to Viserys because her father told her, "You're supposed to marry like this." Aemon sends members of the Kingsguard involved in the riot near the Sept last week to the Wall, making them all take the black. They're blaming them for letting the riot escalate to full-blown attack and almost getting Alicent and Helena killed. Was it really the Kingsguard's fault, or was it just Aemon looking for an excuse to get rid of some of these, like, spindles? Because some of these Kingsguard that he sends to the Wall, making them take the black, were friends of Aegon's, who he named to the Kingsguard because they were his friends, and he wanted to surround himself with his friends, which Aemon then mocked him for calling them like spells. Here's an interesting detail, though. Larissa Strong actually advises Jasper not to tell Aemon about the dragon in the Dragon Rider. I think mostly because Laura Strong really hates Aemon now and is looking for revenge. Like any chance he can find to kill Aemon, he will take it, and I think he's just playing this four-dimensional chess game in his head, because later, Aemon clocks in and he kind of clocks Aemon like, "I'm watching you." So part of the idea, I think, is he is looking for different ways to get rid of Aemon and replace Aegon, putting him back on the Iron Throne. Jasper claims the information about the new Dragon Rider was passed along from person to person through the King's Landing rumor mill, all the way from Driftmark. He mentions from a fisherman, which they use later in the episode for some imagery, like you see fish being passed along on Driftmark, and then the fishermen coming when they're looking for the dragon seeds to start bringing them to Dragonstone. Basically the idea that the small folk are talking about people claiming dragons because they were talking about this rumor mill, before they even set out, were to look for dragon seeds. But this whole King's Landing rumor mill thing is meant to set up the sowing of the seeds where the small folks are sneaking their way to Dragonstone to try their hand at claiming dragons. This early mention, too, is also meant to imply that the small folk are talking a lot about the dragons, meaning that the slowly turning more and more against the Greens. Then we see Martin Rain of House Rain being escorted to the Wall. Back at Dragonstone, we see Smoke and Syrax dragons flying back together. Corlys instantly realizes the mystery person is his bastard son. When they say, "We don't know who this is, it's just a person in your employ from Driftmark," he's like, "Oh, it's got to be one of those bastards of mine." Like I said, though, I think the reason why he hides the fact, like he pretends like he doesn't know who it is because they're saving it for some big reveal. This whole storyline with Jace during the episode where he gets super pissed off at the idea of the small folk being dragon seeds, because later we find out that he feels like because he's a bastard, too. The only thing that really makes him special that, like, helps him keep his place in the royal family. Here is the fact that he does have a dragon, and if anyone or like a bunch of people can claim dragons, then he won't be special anymore. Meaning that the rest of the Targaryen household, like the Greens, their leftover, or even other dragons, these other Targaryen bastards would potentially challenge him for the Iron Throne when it becomes his time to take the throne. Here's the thing, though, there are a couple of dragons. These, they imply, are not Targaryen bastards, but they're coming from different dragon lord houses from ancient Valyria that were not Targaryens. But the vast majority of them are meant to be illegitimate Targaryens. When you become a dragon rider, you're instantly elevated in your status. Like you get a title, you get legitimized, it becomes a really big deal. Hugh Hammer talks about this phenomenon later. Like, if I become a dragon rider, they'll make you a lady. We'll get anything we ever wanted. We'll get all this money, all these resources. Rhaenyra takes a hard pass on the Black Council meeting because she's with Macaria, talking it over how they're going to deal with the rest of the dragon seeds, and just the whole concept of the dragon season. General. When she says the dragon makes sense, Adam holds Targaryen blood in his veins. That's a callback to Jon Snow and Drogon when he met for the first time. She mentions finding more riders for Vermithor over in Silver Wing. Remember, they're not really thinking about Sheep Stealer right now. That's going to be a bit of a wild card, which I think they're saving for the finale. Like, oh wow, we got another really big dragon. Currently, she says she only has Syrax at the beginning of the episode here, and that wouldn't be enough against Aemond and Vhagar to set up the big reveal at the end of the episode, where she challenges Aemond, or kind of challenges him with 3 dragons. In the books. Previously, she'd only looked at other highborn houses expecting that there might be more loyalty for them. But Misery basically explains that that means nothing, like the small folk are much more likely to be loyal to her. And to be fair, she's also kind of wrong. To like just because they're small folk doesn't automatically mean that they'll be loyal. There's a lot of stuff we can't talk about because it kind of gets into spoilers. Like it wouldn't be a Game of Thrones show, like House of the Dragon, if there wasn't betrayal. Allegiances that are formed can be just as easily broken. Rhaenyra then references how the realm treated her bastard sons Jace, Luke and Joffrey, which is why she's totally fine. Looking for more? Let us raise an army of bastards, as she says. She gives Adam Hall his own room at the castle. One of the early signs of his big upgrade in life, Corlys comes to see him, who seems like he's pleasantly surprised that he's here, like, wow, congratulations on the promotion. Happy to let him quit his job so that he can be a dragon rider for Rhaenyra. They both know the truth of his parentage, but I guess they're just waiting. All these character arcs building to the finale where they finally come together again. Back in Aegon's room, we see he's practicing walking. He's feeling way faster on the show than he did in the books. They talked about this in previous episodes. The showrunner said that they're compressing the timeline a lot in the books. Aegon was basically hopped up on milk with the poppy in his bed for about a year, when it seems that they're doing, though, is they're pulling a Tyrion. During the original Game of Thrones series. I think the reason why House of the Dragon is speeding up Aegon's recovery is because it's only going to be about 4 seasons of the show, They want him to be a much bigger part of the story, more active very soon. By season 3, you also look. His injuries don't look nearly as bad as they're described in the books. Like I said, pulling a Tyrion. Like making his injuries much less on the show. Layers. Strong. Genuinely. Seems like he cares about Aegon here. When he tells the Grandmaster not to get him walking again by himself because La Ruse went through something similar growing up. He gives him a little pep talk. And like I said, it seems like he's trying to rush his recovery so that he can get back on the Iron Throne and get back to the job of being king, so that they can also get rid of Aemond. Because he really does not like Aemond. Back at the shipyard, he orders Alan Hall to marshal a group of ships to help ferry all the potential dragon seeds from King's Landing to Dragonstone. Notice how Alan is surprised to learn that his brother Adam got sea smoke. Like, wow, dragon rider. I guess that means that I could potentially be a dragon rider too. In the books that were meant to be many people who did lie claiming to be dragon seeds and probably got themselves eaten. Then we get a really cool scene with you, Hammer, where we get some more lore about the history of the Targaryen family. They explain that his daughter has died. R.I.P. after the events of the riot. When his wife keeps wanting to go to Temple Town. I think that gets into some book stuff we can't really talk about because it might get into spoilers, but Tumble Town, I think, will become an important place in the future. He explains to her about how Bo gained so much wealth and status if he becomes a dragon rider, because it's such a huge deal. And he starts talking about the history of his lineage. He didn't know who his father was, but he did know his mother, who was a working girl in Flea Bottom and had silver hair, meaning that his mother was the person from House Targaryen. Here's the really important part. A lot of you probably picked up on this when he says that her brother's boys were Viserys and Daemon. That means that Balon the Brave was her brother, his mother's brother. And one of Jaehaerys's many daughters. It'd be a small change that they're making on the show, but they've changed a lot of stuff from the books already, so this would be no different. When she was younger, Sarah Targaryen, member of the royal household, caused a big scandal by sleeping around Flea Bottom like she was horny on Maine, so she got it on a lot around King's Landing. In the books, she was said to have gone to the east and became a madam at a brothel. She became a very prominent person over there. But I think what they're saying on the show is that instead of going to the east, she just went to Flea Bottom and started working at one of the brothels there. And that's how she eventually gave birth to Hugh Hamer. In Dragonstone, Rhaenyra watches all the people trying to show up to claim a dragon. It's kind of like her ordering Uber Eats for the dragons, because most of them wind up getting eaten by Vermithor or somebody orders some takeout for the dragons. They're getting really hungry in their caves. Notice that the dragon keepers also revolt, claiming that this is kind of a perversion. Like the dragons are sacred and you're just treating them like common things. Come and play things. When he mentions they're not for the games of men, that felt like a callback to the Game of Thrones. Then Rhaenyra basically gives them the fine print, like, look, this is what's really going on here. You're probably going to get eaten, so just prepare for that. When she mentions a lot of her previously held beliefs about how dragons and dragon bonding work is absolutely wrong. That's a callback to Jace referencing the High Valyrian histories having been doctored. Like the things that they think they know are all wrong. You still need to be from a bloodline, from one of the dragon lord houses of ancient Valyria. But you don't have to have pure blood. You don't have to be part of the royal family or anything like that. They try their hand at Vermithor furs. Everybody been wondering all season when are they going to bring Vermithor more back. Because he's been in all the trailers. She is correct. He's called the Bronze Fury and he's the largest dragon. This on the show right now. It's alive during this part of the timeline. Vermithor, or used to be King George Harris's dragon. And he was actually hatched from an egg that was put in Jaehaerys's crib when he was a baby. They go back to the Dragon Mount. She calls out to Vermithor in High Valyrian. If it wasn't clear, she wasn't talking to them like she was facing them. I love the way they have the reveal of Vermithor too when he comes out of the shadows. She's not talking to the people here. She's talking to Vermithor like saying, "Come here, Vermithor," in High Valyrian. It'd be like you calling your cat from across the room, like, "Come over here." Notice this big bushy grandpa dragon beard. Like they've really upgraded the special effects for him. This season. We only saw him briefly in shadow during season 1. Notice he's also got a scar on his lip from earlier battles. The sounds he makes when he cozies up to Rhaenyra are similar to the sounds that Drogon made when he cozied up to Jon Snow during Game of Thrones. Like he's totally cool with Rhaenyra. "I like you, you're cool." This person is meant to be Silver Dennis, who is from the books. He winds up being the first to get eaten. Rap and a bunch of other people here. Like, he just goes for all on snack time. Like, this is a buffet. Thank you for bringing these people. I'm so hungry right now. But notice when he extends his head over the crowd, kind of sussing everyone out. He stops when he gets to Hugh Hammer like his giant dragon eye spots you. Hammer? All because he can just kind of sense the vibes coming from him. Like, you're the guy. When they all start falling off the platform to the ground, you notice there's a weird tree growing nearby because obviously we're woods, very big thing. Hugh Hammer tries to run for it. Love the way this thing goes down to where you have Vermithor in the background, just randomly grabbing people having his snacks. This huge hammer is running about like he finds the girl, tries to save her by distracting him, but then finds out that it's successful because Vermithor or is like, "You're the guy, I'm claiming you." Love the look that goes between them too. Like he's loving Hugh Hammer's vibe. Love the rage coming for you. You love the energy. We can be friends. We can be brothers. You even see Vermithor. Or starts a smile, a giant dragon smile too. Then they play Rhaenyra's theme music that they played in the previous episode, when she sent all her ships to King's Landing with the food. They also end the episode on this, to where she stands defiantly against Aemond and Vhagar with the 3 dragons. Then we get a funny, like a comedic dragon claiming scene with Off-White stumbling into Silverwing's cave. And it's kind of a similar experience here to where Silverwing winds up being the one to claim him. He does not claim Silverwing. Love the slow reveal here, too. It's kind of comedic too, with him walking up next to her, not noticing that she's there because she's kind of camouflaged against the cave. Silverwing used to be the dragon of Queen Alice and King Jr. Here's his queen, and she'd been a mated pair with Vermithor. Nobody's ridden either of them since Jay Harris and Alice and died. Really love the design that they went with for Silverwing to make her feel very distinct from the other dragons. You also notice that her horns on her head kind of makes it look like she's wearing a crown, like she was Queen Alicent's dragon. Very regal seeming dragon. Silverwing and Vermithor, or also the parents of a lot of the dragons on the show right now, have that comedic scene of her nuzzling him, kind of pushing him over, and he kind of realizes what's going on, like, "Oh, okay, I'm not dead. You're claiming me. This is great. I'm survived." If you haven't seen the actor who plays Wolf White, he's mostly known for doing comedy stuff, which is why they play a lot of his scenes. His comedic scenes, like especially this dragon claiming scene. Then I love the way they reveal Silverwing and Off-White flying over King's Landing. Later, like back at the Green Castle, they mentioned Ormond Hightower, Lord of House Hightower. He's Otto Hightower's older brother, still having problems with House Barry and their army because they're trying to get revenge over the death of Lord Barry during Season 1. Justice for Barry. They confirmed that Darren's dragon Tessorian has started to fly, and Darren will join the war shortly. The name starts to hear the cries of the small folk coming from King's Landing. There are dragons near, like everybody run, everybody get inside. And he sees Off-White and Silverwings is flying all over the city. This dragon riding scene is a little bit like Jon Snow's first time trying to ride Rhaegal freaking out the whole time, although Off-White seems like he's having a better time of it than Jon Snow did. Like Jon Snow was terrified. Then Aemond quickly hops on Vhagar after them. The reason why they are is in the countryside is because she's way too big to roost in the actual dragon, but she couldn't even live there, even if Aemond wanted her to. She's gotten so big that she's become an outdoor cat. Then we get that cool scene of Aemond going after them on Dragonstone and finding Rhaenyra with the 3 other dragons, Vermithor, Silverwing, Syrax as she stares defiantly at him. This is her being a little bit more warlike, little more demon-like, "Come at me, bro." The whole idea here is that this whole time on House the Dragon, Aemond has thought himself invincible because he has the biggest, most powerful dragon. So that's why he's been lording over everyone this whole time. Like, I am so amazing because I have the best dragon. But even he's not so stupid as to try and fight 3 dragons on once in Vermithor or to boot, is almost as big as they are just by himself. They end the episode with her theme music, and like I said, kind of pushing into the finale is we have the idea that Daemon has his army of Riverlords. They want to take King's Landing. Rhaena seems like she's about to claim Sheepstealer. So everything is kind of coming to a head heading into Season 3. There was so much stuff happening in the episode. If you spotted any Easter eggs or references that I didn't talk about in the episode, write them below in the comments. There is a lot more stuff going on in this episode of House of Dragon Season 2 Episode 7, I'll try to do videos for those as quickly as possible. Everybody click here for that Episode 8 finale video or update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other House the Dragon videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.